in this august gathering. It's my first time actually to attend this conference. And I just want to say, first of all, that I've taught law for more than 30 years. And when I wake up in the morning, I always ask myself whether this is a noble profession. That is because of the complexity of the things that lawyers do in society. But just being here for the last 3 days, I can affirm that this is a noble profession. You've all been very inspiring to everyone, including to me. And I just want to say to Faith Odinga that, you lead welcome Governor Somak. I wanted to say that to Faith, you lead not just with your head, but you lead with your heart. And while I do not want to essentialize women leadership, I think there is a way in which women perform governance that tends to be inclusive and I believe that your tenure will be much missed. I wanted to just take a few minutes today to speak about some simple truths about democracy, about constitutionalism, and about the rule of law. And I just want to say that abstract autonomy, and the other one is formal equality. If you look at the logic, the normative logic of our 2010 Constitution, which is the normative logic of really all democratic constitutions, you will see that those two tenets form the basis, the fulcrum, the substance of that document. And if you remove those two tenets, the very idea of democracy itself collapses. And I wanted to talk about two other tenets which are more normative, and that is equal protection and anti-discrimination. Again, if you remove those two normative tenets, the entire edifice of democracy collapses. But I wanted to say that democracy is a very complex. As citizens and as the three arms of government. And I say that we've been trying to perform democracy, mostly failing, but sometimes succeeding. And so I've been asking myself, why is it that we've been mostly failing in our task of performing the processes of democracy? And the one thing I'm going to say is controversial, but I think it is true. And that is that democracy as we know it today, legal democracy that is not native to our time. It is not native to our time. It's a normative system that we are trying to learn. And I would suggest that our humility is required as we try to learn this very complex system of governance. Because you can even see in some very serious countries, some established political democracies around the globe, you can see a lot of backsliding. Countries that have been democracies for more than 300 years. And this shows you how complex the system is. And so I wanted to talk in particular about the culture of democracy in these simple truths. And the first one that I could think of was a metaphor for the doctrine of separation of powers and the doctrine of the checks and balances that are integral, in fact essential to democracy. And I thought I would use this metaphor of the knee to describe this particular system. The knee is like a tripod. It has the thigh bone, it has a leg bone, and there's a cartilage. The knee functions because of the healthy cartilage that pushes and enables its movement. If you remove the cartilage, the knee collapses and becomes dysfunctional. In the same way, in my view, the doctrine of separation of powers functions because of norms, not because of law. Because of norms, not because of black letter law. The black letter law itself is, of course, distilled from the norm. But the norm itself is the basis of the law. And so therefore, what we should, all of us, be trying to pay attention to, most of all, although we are lawyers, is not really the black letter law, but the norm on which the black letter law is based. Because the black letter law, as we all know, can be an ass. When they say, the law is an ass, that's what we're talking about. The norm is a substance. The law may give you justice, but the norm will always give you justice. The law may give you justice, but the norm will give you justice. Because justice itself is a norm. And so therefore systems work not because there are laws. That is not why systems work. Systems work because the norms are embedded in the political and social culture of a people and of a nation. The rhythms and the turns of democracy require the socialization of those norms of governance that I'm talking about. The socialization of norms, not the socialization of the black letter law. Now, yesterday the Chief Justice was here and she talked at length about the relationship between the three arms of government. And I was tempted to say this, that the democratic language of our 2010 Constitution needs to be imbibed by at least three branches of government. In my view, the judiciary is like a cartilage that stands or sits between the executive and the legislature. If the judiciary is to be successful in executing its mandate of being the guardian of fidelity to the rule of law, it means that the judiciary must adhere to an interpretation of the black letter law that recognizes that it is one of the three arms of government and that its success depends upon a respectful working relationship with the two other arms of government. Because, there is this mistaken belief that the judiciary is not part of the government. The judiciary is part of the government. And so, whereas the executive in the 2010 Constitution is regarded as a first among equals, in my view, the executive must also listen to the predicates and to the wisdom of our judiciary. I want to say that the judiciary itself, in carrying out its mandate, must also understand the political doctrine question. And here, I am not talking about asking the judiciary to retract its mandate or kowtow to the executive. No, I'm simply asking the judiciary to realize that this system works best when there is give and take between the three arms of government. Give and take. If you look, for example, at what is happening in the United States, what you are going to see is a system of government that is democratic, but that is in crisis. And why is that system in crisis? That system is in crisis because you have an administration in power that has forgotten the relationship between, must be very intentional in creating what I have called an elite consensus. An elite consensus that accepts the normative basis of democracy, the normative basis of the concept of the rule of law, the normative concepts of equal protection. I also want to say that elites in our country must always understand that they stand on the sovereignty of the people, and that the state and the government of our country endures because of that trust that the people give it. If you remove that element of the trust by the people in their government, then you cannot ensure the perpetual existence of the state. I just want to say that in the last several weeks, we have been discussing within the state some of the issues that have arisen since last year because of a sudden sense of restlessness in this country, and which boiled over on June 25th last year and continues to boil over until Sabasaba this year. As you all know, a lot of lives were lost, and I think I do not tell you a secret when I say that there is a measure of a trust deficit between the government and the people of this country. And one of the things I think that we have to do, not just the government, but also the people of this country, is to engage in a process of national healing. Someone has said, several times that there's only one country called Kenya, that if it collapses, that we'll have no place to go. I just want to say that it's a part of that process of national healing. I have taken on the mandate to effect a mechanism for the compensation of victims of riots and protests. And I want to say that this is something that has not happened in our country in a way in which I perceive it and in a way in which I want to perform it. That the Chief Justice, without equivocation, endorsed this effort as one limb of the process of transitional justice. There are other limbs of this process. I've heard some people say that this is not justice, but I just want to say that is not true. Compensation is a part of justice. But there are other steps that we shall be taking to go forward. And I ask all of you to support us, to counsel us, to give us support and assistance as we go through this process. I thank you very much.
Was the Vice President and Minister for Home Affairs between January 2008 and April 2013. He has received several honors and awards. The Voice Achievers Award, conferred the prestigious rank of Senior Counsel by rights in 2020.